Hey, everybody, my next guest is a stand up comedian who performs all over the world and can be heard every day on Sirius XM Radio's Laugh USA, Blue Collar Comedy, and Jamie Foxx's Foxhole stations. His new book, The ROI of LOL, can be found on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the great Clayton Fletcher. Clayton, how you doing, man? How's
I'm
everything?
good, Don. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, this is awesome having you on, man. And congrats on the book, man. I know that's a is this your first book? Because this is a big deal.
Yeah, and it's even a bigger deal because we actually debuted at number one on the business charts on Amazon. So it seems like the time for this book is now. I couldn't possibly have done this book without my co-author, who is an actual businessman
Yeah.
by the name of Steve Cody. He's a legend in the PR world, and he and I got together and wrote this book after so many years of talking about doing it. We decided to do it, and I'm really happy how it's going so far.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And this book is, the ROI is, return on investment, right? For those who don't know all the code, and LOL is, laughing out loud. So it's how to return on investment. It's like business using laughter to help your business in a sense,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, we feel there are things that comedians know that business people should learn. And so this book is all about applying the skills that comedians use every single day to whatever you have to do in your business, whether it's being a better leader or doing better presentations or just kind of developing a happier, healthier workplace culture. It's all in the book. And yeah, so far people really seem to like it.
It's funny because you look throughout history and like sitcoms and cartoons and whatnot. The boss is always the mean guy, yelling and screaming all the time, and like the boss from The Simpsons or whatever, those types.
I know he can teach us a lot about business, Mr. C. Montgomery Burns.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Family, religion, friendship. These are the three demons you must slay if you wish to succeed in business.
Is this trying to kind of shine light to those CEOs in the world? Hey, you know what? Maybe try it this way. Be a little self-deprecating and go that route. Is that like what are you trying to say to the CEO?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a huge lesson. I mean, nowadays in the business world, just, ever since the pandemic, man, everything is different now. Like, you can't just yell at your employees and expect them to even show up in the office every day anymore, right? I mean, the future of work is evolving right before our very eyes. And, me coming from an entertainment background, I didn't really know that much about office politics and office culture. But, in working with this Steve Cody for the last 15 plus years now, I've learned so much about what employees expect, what employers expect, and it's changing. People want to work from home, and when they do come to the office, they don't want the office to be a terrible place to be. They want to feel like their company has a purpose, and so all of this is related. Just like we as comedians have a strong point of view and we have a message, and we try to put it all out there. Today's CEO has to do the exact same things, but his audience is different from the crowd that comes into Governors and pays a 2 drink minimum. Man, it's a different audience. So
Right.
they still have to be a crowd pleaser in a sense.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. But I always am like there's the right mind and the left mind people, right? So the left mind, I think, is the creative and kind of more of the wheelhouse of the comedian, and then the right mind is always the organized and the smarter one, or the math knows math,
Yeah.
uh, and that's normally kind of the CEO type. Is it harder for those types to kind of be funny and or to learn these lessons, and what are some of the challenges of, because I think I consider myself more of a left brain guy, you know and it's very hard for me to sit down and do paperwork, or to very to focus on math or things, or even in the boardroom to like
Yeah.
but so tell me some of that, kind of going across from the right brain to teach them how to be funny.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Don. And if I can just hold up a copy here of the book, this is the ROI of LOL. And in this book, we explore, available on Amazon and anywhere else.
Yes, everybody go get it. This is awesome.
We explore kind of the difference between the left brain, as you put it, which is like the analytical, numbers crunching, and just science and math, right? That's all your left brain. And of course, the right brain is your creativity, your emotional side, and all of that. Well, nowadays, CEOs have to learn how to be more empathetic leaders. And whether it comes naturally to them or not, bottom line is employees are demanding it, and people are leaving their jobs to go to a company where they just feel better about what they're doing in the office. They have more of an emotional connection to their coworkers and to the CEO and the other C-suite executives, as we call them. But, beyond that, I want to say this book isn't really about making people stand-up comedians. We don't need competition, right? I mean,
right, exactly. Yeah.
We're not looking for America's Next Top Comic or something like that, right? This is about just kind of learning what those skills are that comedians use. It's things like leading the room, or just being better at storytelling, getting your point across in 20 words or less, being unexpected, and just kind of if you think about the way you're stereotyping, like you say, like the boss on The Simpsons, right? He has no empathy. He doesn't care about the employees. The only thing he cares about is the profits of the company. And that's kind of the old version of a boss. I mean, of course, it's exaggerated for comedy and, Homer Simpson's life or whatever. But still, like, many of us know those type of bosses. But what we're finding is that, and there's, by the way, there's a ton of research in the book to back up our claims. We're not just sitting here saying, hey, you should all learn about comedy. There's tons of research that's been done that we quote in the book. But basically, what it all boils down to is that today's employee wants to feel included. Like every company says, oh, we're like a family here, right? But some of them are dysfunctional families, right? So we're trying to help really create a healthy family and a healthy culture. And part of that is just, learning how to communicate more effectively in the language that your employees understand, which in many cases is comedy.
Right on, man. And I think too, to your point about not wanting to create, more stand-up comics, but the CEOs of comedy could be a good marquee to go on tour with.
Yeah, they had the Kings of Comedy, right? The Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Now we'll do the CEOs of comedy. Wouldn't that be a big seller?
And Steve Cody could headline it. He's an actual CEO.
He's really funny too, by the way. I actually met him at a comedy show. I hosted one of these kind of the end of a class show at Caroline's back in the day. And, all the new guys had just taken this introduction to stand-up comedy class, and they were all going to do their 5 minutes, like on a Sunday afternoon at Caroline's, like at 4:00 in the afternoon or something horrible like that, right? So, I'm emceeing, and one after another, they're just kind of just getting a few laughs. But this one guy was pretty good, and I didn't know that he was a CEO. I just went up to him and I said, if you want to keep going in comedy, I want to encourage you because I think you're talented. And I actually have some connections with some of the comedy clubs around the city. So, next thing we know, he and I are performing together, and he was getting better at his job as a result of working with me on his stand-up. And then we knew we were on to something. And
so I need to reintroduce myself. I am Steve Cody, and I'm a PR guy. That's public relations, not Puerto Rican.
He owns a PR firm. So he's the CEO and founder of this company called Peppercom that's featured in the book quite a bit. And, but they have a lot of clients. So I've either worked with Peppercom or with Peppercom's clients, none of which are in the entertainment field at all. It's not like I'm going to the Disney Network or AMC or something like that. I'm going to like serious companies like pharmaceutical, financial, insurance, this kind of stuff. And you wouldn't expect them to be funny, but Steve's really funny, and a lot of his employees are really funny. And we've actually been able to kind of translate some of these same skills to, different challenges that companies face in the real world of corporate work. So again, it's not really about, how funny you are. Nobody wins. It's not like a contest or anything like that.
Right.
Although I do like your idea. You should trademark that, CEOs of comedy. That could be pretty big.
Hey, only if you and Steve are involved in it, then we'll
that sounds good.
Yeah. But what I do love about the kind of the book and the theme, kind of, if I'm getting it right, is that the power of making somebody laugh, the power of, of doing that, how to loosen up. You can loosen up your employees, you can loosen up your clients, you can loosen up yourself. Laughter is contagious. It makes people, feel at ease, and that's something you could take not only in the boardroom or in the business place, but through life in general, just, with your neighbors or with whoever. So, I just think that it's such a powerful tool, and being funny is important.
Yeah. And we see the effect of laughter, obviously, in the comedy club every night. I mean, if the show goes well, people have laughed hysterically for 45 minutes by the time I get off stage. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be at the brokerage the weekend of January 26th. That's my next governor's booking that I'm going to be, headlining out there. I love
Excellent.
all my trips to Long Island. I love coming out there. I love the people in Long Island. Everybody is, so warm. And, sometimes they'll give me a hug after the show. People that I've never met before, they feel like they know me well enough to just come up and be like, "Oh, you were so funny," and just give me a big hug, and it feels good. But there's a reason why that happens. When somebody makes you laugh really hard, you actually kind of fall in love with that person for a minute. You know what I mean? And, like, that's why, like, all the really big, highest paid performers in Hollywood are all comedians, and why, people, their marriages work out, because they have the same sense of humor. They laugh together. Laughter is, people say it's the best medicine, but I still think it's very much underrated in terms of, what it does for us as human beings. And as our lives become more and more stressful, as anytime you turn on the TV, it's all doom and gloom. This country is having a war with that country, and there's another virus we have to worry about now. And, what's going to happen? Is the election going to be overturned? And all this stuff that's going on that just kind of makes you say, oh my God, life is getting more and more stressful. As that goes up, the need for laughter increases. I mean, this all happens together, because that's kind of our internal defense mechanism to cope with life on earth, really. And we see it in comedy. The worse things get on the outside, the busier we get inside the comedy clubs night after night. So there's a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. And to laugh at the, through the pain.
Yeah.
It helps us all, and that's why I always say, comedians are so important. Being funny is so important, and to have a good sense of humor is so important. We were talking about getting through dark times, and you see the times we're kind of living through and have gone through, and soon to come. Is there a too soon in comedy, and what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, Don. I mean, every comedian struggles with this. As comedians, we are kind of like, we don't like to behave. You know what I mean? Comedians in general, we don't want to do what we're told. If somebody tells me, "Oh, don't say this," the first thing I want to do is, "Oh, see if I can say that," right? But there's a big difference between performing in Greenwich Village at 1:30 in the morning, one of the basements down there, with the drunk crowd of rowdy people that are kind of up for anything, and practicing comedy skills in a conference room at your company. You know what I mean? One of the most important skills of stand-up is knowing the audience and reading the room, just understanding who's here and what are they likely to laugh at. So I mean, I personally don't think it's ever too soon, but I do think that you got to know who's in the crowd. And, certainly if you're doing a corporate comedy training session, we talk a lot before we let anybody take the microphone. There are some things that are inappropriate for the office. And if you have any question about something you're thinking about saying is inappropriate, it is.
Right. Exactly.
If you're a little bit unsure, don't even do it. When in doubt, leave it out. And then that avoids any trouble. And all the years we've been doing this, we've never, knock on wood, we've never had a lawsuit or any kind of HR disaster or anything like that, because we really do set out the guidelines up front. You want to let people know this isn't the kind of comedy you see on HBO after dark or something like that.
Right.
I want to hear stories about your life. I'm going to have the vice president of finance come and take the stage. I want to know, What's it like dealing with his 9-year-old twins when he gets home from work?
Right.
But it's like commuting 45 minutes a day each way. I want to know maybe an embarrassing story that happened to him when he was just an intern at the company he used to work for 25 years ago. Now, these are the kind of stories we're looking for,
Yeah.
not what goes on in the bedroom or anything about the bathroom or sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Just leave that out and, wait till you're headlining at the Comedy Cellar to do those kind of jokes.
Yeah, save those for the CEOs of Comedy Tour. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I agree totally, man. There's two different worlds if you're, being funny at a corporate powwow team building event versus the comedy clubs, for sure. And I read the story that you wrote of the woman Winnie, who whose husband passed away a few days before she went to the show.
Yeah.
And that just that story touched me. And I think, if you could, before I ask you to kind of tell it again for the audience, it shows you the power of comedy and how and how you were able to kind of help her to, see the light, so to speak. So yeah, if tell me about that story a little bit more in depth.
Yeah. So it's really, one of my favorite stories in the book. At various points in the book, like most of the book, Steve, Cody, and I are speaking together. Like we're saying, we believe this or we have learned that. But in certain parts, and they're very clearly marked in the book, you either get an ROI tip from Steve or an LOL tip from the comedian, Clayton.
Right.
So this is one of those. And, basically just say, I was starting to feel like comedy is kind of a selfish thing to do. We go out every night. We want the spotlight. We want the glory. We want, the audience to fawn over us and everything else. We want everybody to follow us on Instagram and everything like that. At Clayton Comic, by the way, if you're paying attention. So, that's kind of where I was at in my career, is like starting to think like, maybe I should do something else with my life. Like maybe there's a higher purpose. And I just gotten off stage at New York Comedy Club. This was many years ago. And this older lady, probably in her 70s, I would say, approached me and say, it's my first time coming here. You really made me laugh. I lost my husband 5 days ago, and it's the first time I've even left my house. I just keep crying and crying, and I was all cried out. So I decided to come here and see if I could maybe take my mind off my problems and laugh a little bit, and of course I continue to joke around with her. Obviously she's got a good sense of humor. So I said, do you want to buy my CD? That's how long ago this was. That's how long ago this was. And we were selling CDs after the show. So this is a recent story. She was like pretending like she was going to smack me. But then I said, listen, I'm glad that you enjoyed the show. And, I gave her the CD for free because she made me feel good. She said that finally trying to start her life and the next chapter of her life and coming out of her doldrums as she was grieving, 5 days, and she decided to just take that leap of faith and come into the comedy club. And she happened to show up on a night when I was there. And I guess whatever I was doing on stage appealed to her. And, she said that I really helped her take that next step towards, moving on. She can't get him back, so you might as well move on. And it's kind of a touching feeling as a comedian. It was emotional for me to have her say that. And I still think about Winnie from time to time, and I wish I would have charged her for the CD.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, was it like $15, man?
That was worth a lot of money 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, but it's those kind of stories that is what makes it what it's all about to me, about the power of making somebody laugh, of bringing that with, and that's in real life, man. This is a woman who's going through some pain here. Her whole life has changed, and you were able to kind of get her out of the woods a little bit for a minute and enjoy her night. That's powerful, and I don't know if a lot of these even comedians, I don't know if they understand the power in what they're doing.
No, I really think we don't. And, Winnie just happened to speak to me. I happened to step outside after my set and like, I was just going to go get some air or whatever. And so that was an opportunity that I had to actually interact with her. And, who knows how many other lives we've all touched over the years as comedians. Who knows how many other Winnies there are out there that I gave a laugh when they needed it most, and so maybe it kind of takes this whole thing from being so selfish and self-centered to maybe we do have a higher purpose in our own way. Maybe we are doctors distributing the best medicine, and we just, we don't think about it that much because we all get so caught up in, where we're at in our career, or why won't this club hire me, or hey, how come this guy doesn't want me to headline, or why can't I get on Last Comic Standing? It goes on and on and on. It never ends, no matter what level you get to in comedy. But yeah, that story kind of put things in perspective to me, because it shows, and actually the chapter of that, the title of that chapter is The Power of Laughter. So I think it's a perfect story to kind of summarize, there are a lot of reasons why we should all be laughing more.
It's true, for sure. And another thing I love about comedy too is if you look at like generations back, all the way to like Will Rogers, or through Lenny Bruce, and all the kind of truth teller comics, they're also the ones kind of like the front line of telling us, what's real and what's the truth is, what's BS and what's not. And I think that's another thing that humor has a way of doing, is to tell you the straight dope.
Yeah.
But in a digestible way.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go on stage and just start ranting and raving about, your political beliefs or your opinions about this or that, whether people should be vegetarian, or how you feel about dogs or cats, or really, we could, as comedians, we kind of have license to talk about anything, well, at least in the comedy club, stepping away from the boardroom for a minute, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
We're not in the office now, but I feel like, when I come to the brokerage or to McGuire's or to Governor's, I feel like the crowd, they're willing to go with me wherever I want. I can talk about any subject at all. And honestly, I don't think it matters so much if the crowd agrees with my opinion or not, as long as it's funny. If it's funny enough, it doesn't really matter, because I'm not a politician,
Right.
I'm a comedian. So the standard of, how much I've thought things through should hopefully be different for a comedian than it would for somebody who's like elected to represent us.
Right.
I'm just elected to make us laugh.
Do you look for humor in the politicians? So like, the senators, the congressmen of the world, is that a thing where you're like, oh, this guy could have like said his speech different, he missed an opportunity to be funny here, or he would be more likable if he was funny? Or...
Yeah. I mean, if your question is, do I watch the president or other politicians doing their speeches, and when they're addressing a crowd, and see opportunities they had to make better connections through comedy, the answer is absolutely. I mean, I see it all the time. And some of them are pretty funny, and some of them aren't, but I think somebody is more likable if he has a sense of humor. I feel like that is so important. I don't want to get into politics generally. And when I'm on stage, I try to stay out of it, but sometimes you kind of have to, like, I mean, we live in New York State, and, when Cuomo was getting in all that trouble for, groping this one and touching that one.
Right.
I mean, I had to, put my 2 cents in on that, of course, but I mean, unless it's something that's, really front page news, I try to stay out of the day-to-day politics, just because, well, for one thing, I travel a lot. So like right now I'm in Canada as we're recording this.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been doing like a little book tour up here in Canada, Ontario.
Nice, man.
I don't know when this comes out, but I have gigs all over Ontario in the month of November.
Okay,
anyway,
cool. Yeah.
So
This will be coming out in November. So yeah. We're good.
Okay. Yeah, great. So like November 9th and 10th, or 10th and 11th, I'll be in Burlington, Ontario at Yuck Yucks Comedy Club up here. So And I'm also doing some book events up here. So, you know, I'm touring, promoting my book and doing my stand-up and all that stuff. So if I start doing like local New York State politics in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, you know, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy. And I travel a lot. Sometimes I perform in Europe. I go to Sweden. I go to, you know, Norway and places like that. So
Nice,
it's
man.
important that I have an act that can travel with me. So I try not to do stuff that's too local. But even if you did like presidential politics, like, you know, Trump versus Biden, you know, not everybody can agree on that stuff. And so you're kind of putting yourself in a position where it really has to be so funny that even if the person is like a fan of the other guy, they can still laugh at the joke because that's how funny it is. And that's a higher standard than I'm able to meet a lot of the time. So
It's tough because the audience is so, you know, so much invested in one or the other.
Yeah,
that it's more than ever. So like, I would personally stay away from, you know, those type of politics, for sure, just because it's so polarizing. You don't know, you know, unless you really know the audience and you're like, you know, but,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you talk about Cuomo, that's a guy, a politician who knew how to use a sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Cuomo was a big personality, you know, and he got a lot of credit for going on TV. I think he even won an Emmy Award for
Yeah, he did.
what he was doing in front of the scenes, you know, as far as like being just a charismatic leader and trying to help everybody through COVID and all the things that he was saying every day on CNN. And then, of course, his brother got, you know, a job on CNN as well. And you know, there were people that are calling themselves Cuomo-sexual because
Yeah.
they were attracted to him for all of his charisma and all of his energy, you know, which of course you never know what's going on behind the scenes. And we now know that there was some shady dealings there. But yeah, as far as, you know, just having a great personality, you know, he has good comedy skills and good communication skills generally. No, not getting into his morals or whatever, but as far as like when the camera's on, can he do the job? Yeah, the answer is yes, he could.
Yeah, and because, you know, you look at politicians and kind of corporate, almost the same. They're different, but almost the same type of, you know, usually uptight, more, you know, stiff around the collar type of people. And to see them loosening up now, and to see the value in comedy and to see value in making people laugh, you know, does the book also go towards employees, how to, you know, how to coexist, and also can you make the boss laugh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what you need is you need a corporate culture that's healthy and where, you know, a sense of humor is welcome. And this is not for everybody. I mean, there are plenty of companies out there which are, you know, almost like a dictatorship kind of thing. You know, it's like just show up to work on time, be here when I tell you, do what I tell you, and then clock out and go home. And, you know, if your boss doesn't have a sense of humor, I don't recommend you know, trying to loosen her up. You know, I mean, that's not the vibe we're going for. I don't want anybody to get fired because they read my book, you know.
Right.
But, you know, let's say they're willing to meet you halfway. Then it could be something where, you know, you leave a copy of my book on your boss's desk. And, you know, in the process of them learning about how to, you know, be more charismatic and more empathetic towards their employees, maybe being more open to laughter in the workplace, you may actually find that the whole structure of the company is starting to improve, and certain walls are breaking down and silos are opening up and things like that. So that's really, you know, kind of big picture what we're trying to do and what we have done for many, many companies that we've helped over the years.
So would you go into a company like, let's just say Southwest Airlines, something, and you actually like give a lesson to the CEO and teach them like a comedy class, essentially?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll maybe a class might be called how to use stand-up comedy to be a more empathetic leader, right? So first thing we'll do is, just like any other comedy class, I have to teach you, you know, what is comedy? Why does it work? What's a punchline? What's a setup? Kind of the nuts and bolts that, you know, you and I know because we're comedians, but these people might not be familiar with these terms, and they probably never thought as hard as you and I have about what makes something funny or not. So we kind of explore that. And then I have each one of them, we do a brainstorm. Like if you take the stage, what kind of things you might want to talk about. You could do observational comedy about, what gets on your nerves or what you wish you could change, something you noticed on television or in a song or in a commercial, something that one of your children said to you or something that happened on the subway, kind of get like, I'll give a bunch of examples like that. I'll go on and on like I just was for a while and start to see the light bulbs going off in each one's head. Like, oh, that reminds me of something that happened. So I try to trigger a memory where it's something that they'll want to tell everybody because it's a fun story. And then each one will take the stage and, just do like a minute or two where they're improvising and trying to practice the skills that I'm out, laying out for them. And when they, go off stage, I make everybody clap for them. Like, that's impressive. This is somebody really stepping outside of her comfort zone and getting up here, trying to make you guys laugh. That deserves applause right there. Now let's talk about what happened. I really like the way you did this. I love the way you were engaging the audience, or the way that they're looking over here for that part, but then you shifted your focus over here. I'll kind of break it down almost like a football coach on Monday morning, right? We're in the locker room, I got the video and X's and O's all over it. You could have done this, you might have done that, you did this, and that sort of thing. And then, we do that with each one. And then at the end, I always like to ask them, how is the feeling in this room now that we've all been laughing together for 2 or 3 hours? How is the feeling in this room different than it was when this session first started? And that's one of the key takeaways, because I won't talk about that before we do it. But I'll say, you guys remember when you first came in here and you're like, oh man, who's this nerdy guy with the glasses? Oh, what kind of torture is he going to put us through today? And, you were nervous and you were kind of like skeptical, like, is anybody here really going to be funny? And why is my boss making me do this? Or whatever the case may be. And that's how you felt in the beginning. And now that it's over, how do we feel? And I get them talking and they'll always say, I'm more relaxed. I feel like my stress is relieved. I feel closer to my employees. That's a big takeaway too, Don. When you think about it, a lot of times companies try to do team building exercises, right? And what do? They'll have you like have a potato sack race, or walk across the room holding a spoon and like see who can get to the other side faster. Or my favorite, close your eyes, fall backwards, and see if the guy from the mailroom can catch you or not. Right.
Right. Yeah. The trust exercise.
Yeah. The trust fall. Right. It doesn't really build anything. If anything, it just kind of feels silly, or almost like it came from the TV show, The Office. Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a parody of itself at this point. But a stronger team building exercise is get them doing comedy, and we're laughing together, but we're also learning from each other, and we're learning about each other, things fun facts about each other that maybe we never knew before, because nobody ever said, hey, tell me a story about a time when you were a fish out of water, and we'll all laugh at your struggle that you had. You will laugh at that together. Right. And once you do that, you kind of open up new, lines of communication among employees, and actual team building occurs, as opposed to, well, we hired that improv group to come in and make everybody, cluck like a chicken for 45 minutes so we can cross that team building off the the agenda for the year, but nothing really happened. We get reports back from the companies that, the struggles that they were facing, like sometimes it's like intergenerational, right? We've got one guy that's in charge of this group. He's 68 years old. And then like, some of his team is like 23.
Right. Yeah.
He has trouble connecting with them. Well, now we've all laughed together, so we are more connected. Or it could be, like you said, religion, politics, any kind of things that separate us in this polarizing world that we're in. We can kind of knock that stuff down just by saying, like, well, one thing we all have in common is we all love to laugh. So let's do some of that today.
Yeah, the relatability, when you hear the story from your CEO talking about her family, you could relate because of your family, or even if it's multi-generational, she's talking about her kids that might be in their 30s or 20s or 30s.
Right.
That 20 or 30-year-old could relate to that as their parent. So I think, yeah, you're seeing it through comedic stories that we all could kind of relate and all that stuff. The only thing is now, like to your point about falling in love with the community, everyone's gonna be falling in love with their CEOs now, and it's gonna be
Well, I would say that's not a bad thing as long as it's not like a romantic kind of love, you know. But yeah, like as a CEO, you know, you want people to want to come to work for you, and when they are at work, you want them to give it their all. You know, like we hear all the time now about like millennials and Gen Z engaging in quiet quitting, or
Yeah, right.
like, Taco Tuesday, but if they're just gonna like maybe take the day off on Tuesday, and all these different kind of cute little things that they put little acronyms on it or whatever. But I think as a CEO, to be a great leader, you want people to feel like they are on the team. And you hear all these companies now using the word team like we're playing a sport or something. But if you really want to create a team, they got to love the team captain and want to, put faith and trust in that leader. And one way to do that, I mean, you still have to know what you're doing at work. I'm not saying that being funny is going to fix
Right.
you. A terrible CEO. This isn't going to make you a great one, right?
They'll make you a loved one. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, but they'll like you more, and they'll be more willing to try your ideas. And that's really all you can ask for. And also have them not want to quit or quiet quit or whatever else people are doing nowadays.
Yeah.
But rather want to
Be
feel like
inspired.
going to work is a good thing. I look forward to going to my job every day. Like as a CEO, if I could have people saying that, I would be a very happy CEO.
True indeed. True indeed. Now, this is a great book. What would you want the biggest takeaway to be for people to get out of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the number one takeaway from the book is that laughter is needed now more than ever, with all the doom and gloom and all the constant negativity, whether you watch CNN, Fox, or something in between. It's just constant negativity. It feels like the sky is falling every day. And this is translating. People have a lot of stress at work. They're worried about the robots taking over, AI, stealing my job. And, everyone feels like, the stress, the weight on their shoulders. So now more than ever, the power of laughter to build a stronger leader and a more effective and healthier workplace culture. That's what I would want people to know about the book, and that they can find it. We have our own website, ROILOL.com, and they can order it there. You can order a single copy. It makes a great stocking stuffer. You can also order in bulk and get a discount for your whole company or for your team at your office. And so I just hope that, some people will do that, and then let me know what you think. I hope that you enjoyed the book as much as I enjoyed being one of the authors of it.
Yeah, this is great. Like I said, I started reading it. I just got it earlier today, started reading it, and I was actually like really getting into it. And then I'm like, looking at the time, and I'm like, oh, I gotta but yeah, I'm definitely going to finish this up because this is good stuff. And I think that not only for if you're a corporate employee, but anybody who's wants to know about the power of making people laugh, or what it means to be funny, and how it can improve not only your life but people around you as well. I think it's definitely worth reading.
Hi, everybody. I have a favor to ask you. I'm going to get right to it, okay? If you know that you are planning to buy my book, The ROI of LOL, and you haven't done so yet, please do it today. Here's the reason. I don't understand the publishing industry, but they keep telling me that pre-sales are important. So if you have to buy it before Tuesday, or else it doesn't count as a pre-sale. Now, if you know for a fact that you're not going to buy my new book, The ROI of LOL, that's okay. The only people that should buy it after Tuesday are people who don't know right now whether or not they're going to. And that's totally fine with me. I love you all. Thank you so much. Click the link and you'll see it.
Dude, this has been freaking awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Clayton. The book is ROI of LOL. You can find it on their website, the ROI of LOL.com. You could also find it on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. It's on the Barnes and Noble's website. You can get it all over the place. It's fantastic. And Clayton, you can catch Clayton. He's going to be here at Governor's on January 26th at the Brokerage. Looking forward to that.
The Brokerage is actually the first club when I was just a brand new comedian. I don't know, maybe almost 20 years ago. I emceed there, and I thought it was my big break. I was getting paid to go up on stage and MC a show with a real headliner, Don McHenry, who was, I mean, killed it. Terrific. And I was like, wow, I'm here and there's a big crowd and I have to warm them up. And, now I open for Jim Jeffries. So it's come a long way, I guess. But, oh, by the way, the website is ROILOL.com. No other words, just the abbreviations. Yeah.
Okay. ROILOL.com.
That's it.
Clayton Fletcher, everybody.
Thank you, Don. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks again.